so sorry about what happened to both of your nephews, one of whom was murdered and one of whom is in prison right now. And of course, you're coming on this show in large part to try to make sure that he is freed from prison.
Yeah, God willing, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah. So tell us about what is happening to your nephew right now.
So it's two nephews. Their mothers are sisters. The first one, Mohammed, a 15-year-old, on February 16th, was detained in the West Bank. He stays with his mother, father, and sister. There was pounding on the door around 3:34 a.m. It was the IOF. They demanded to enter the home. The father opened the door. They asked who was staying at the house with him. He said, my son, my daughter, and my wife. They said, what's your son's name? He said, Mohammed. They said, where's his bedroom at? Of course, it's 3:34 a.m. The kid's asleep. He's a child. They entered the room. He was asleep. They picked him up out of his bed. They blindfolded him, zip tied his hands behind his back, and carried him to a military vehicle, a type of Jeep that they use over there. Uh, that was at around 4 a.m. on February 16th. Here we are over 8 months later. And that was the very last time his mother, father, or sister saw him, let alone a picture or a FaceTime call or a video visit. There has been no type of communication. They're blocking them from any type of visit.
And tell us what the crimes, and if I'm putting these in major air quotes, because as people know, the entire state of Israel is a crime. It literally it's a war crime and it's founding, it's an occupation. But tell us, while Israel is allowed to genocide people, tell us what they kidnapped and also killed your other nephew for. Like what they're claiming is the crime.
For Muhammad's situation, the 15-year-old who turned 16 in prison, his charge was rock throwing. And there's typically two charges for children. It's either social media posting or rock throwing. And most of them don't get court dates. They have what they call administrative imprisonment, where they spend 6 months to 2 years without seeing a judge. Muhammad's been 8 months, hasn't seen a judge yet, but he actually has a arraignment tomorrow at 8 a.m. if it's not delayed. Um, so that's been going on since February. In the last 8 months, the updates we did get from the State Department was pretty scary news. For example, his weight loss. It was a quarter of his weight, then a third. You're talking about over 35 pounds. Scabies from the lack of, you know, soap and shampoo and clean laundry and things like that. No sunlight. Very weak. No communication with his family, like I said before. But in July, unfortunately, his cousin, his mom's sister's son, 20-year-old Saif Musallet, was visiting his mother overseas from Tampa. He's an ice cream shop owner, and he was ambushed by Israeli settlers on his father's land, and they beat him to death with rocks and sticks. While they were beating him to death, a call went out to the ambulances saying that there's an ambush. There's some kids here who are getting injured. Our next door neighbor overseas, Mohammed Ibrahim, was shot in the back, and the bullet exited his abdomen. At the same time, Sayfollah, an American, a 20-year-old American, was beaten to death, but the ambulances were blocked by the IOF. It's on record that it was blocked for over 2 hours and 30 minutes. Sayfollah took his last breath 5 minutes before getting to the ambulance. And when they got him to the ambulance, the settlers attacked the ambulance, and the ambulance was destroyed. The windshield, the driver was hurt. Um, you know. So here we have two kids, two American kids whose mothers are sisters, but one was beaten to death, and the settlers are still there today. They are still there at the same area where Sayfollah was killed. None of them have been arrested. Complete impunity. At the same time, they're saying that Muhammad is guilty for standing next to a couple of other kids that then they expected one of them or suspected one of them to throw a rock. So these are all alleged crimes, but the same settlers who killed his cousin are still free for actually killing somebody. but standing next to somebody throwing a rock is some major threat to Israeli civilians or population.
And I just wanted to show an image of your late nephew who was murdered. Here he is. Here's Safe. And here he is with his family.
He was an American on vacation. He was there for about a
Right.
month.
Our politicians say if you touch an American, you're going to be, harmed. Right? You
He,
won't. If you harm an American, there'll be consequences.
I could be the first one to vouch for you. That's not true. It's not all Americans. It's it's particular Americans that they care about more than others. Adults who were charged with crimes. Muhammad has not been charged, and he's a child, and he's an American. But for the last 8 months, he's not American enough because of his Palestinian DNA, because of the control that these lobbyists have over our Congress and particularly our White House right now. But more importantly, we live in a state where two high-ranking officials have a great relationship with the Israeli administration, Marco Rubio and Governor DeSantis, who together flew back 1,500 Israeli Americans on chartered flights. And whatever was left over, they chartered a ferry and took them from the Israeli coast to Cyprus or Greece and then brought them home. So you're talking about 1,500 people. They couldn't add one more because, his name is Muhammad. I think
Right.
if his name was Moshe Abraham,
Yeah.
he wouldn't be there. And just the other day, Marco Rubio was present in Israel, and a reporter asked him about the release of an Israeli prisoner, and there was a lot of background noise he couldn't hear properly.
There's some buzz going
And
on.
he said, "We heard that President Trump is considering releasing a Palestinian prisoner named Marwan Barouthi." And Secretary Rubio couldn't hear him, and he said, "Who? I can't hear you." And the guy asked the question again. He said, "The U.S. and the president are asking for, the release of this Palestinian prisoner." And before finishing and saying the man's name, Secretary Rubio said, "Oh, you mean the American?"
You're talking about the one from the U.S.?
Marwan Barghouti, the
Yeah.
Palestinian prisoner.
I don't have any news for you on that today. Obviously, we'll work that through our embassy here and our diplomatic channels, but we don't have anything to announce.
Well, there's only one American currently in a prison, and that's our nephew, Muhammad. So, the double standard is real. The retaliation in the West Bank for speaking up is just as real. During the prisoner exchange, Muhammad was not on the list. He
Right.
wasn't part of the deal. So, as a family, you're saying to us for 8 months, Muhammad's not American enough. We didn't do anything about it. But on the day of the prisoner exchange, he wasn't from Gaza enough. He was from the West Bank.
Mm.
So you see, we're kind of like in no man's land, and we're working on it. We're doing our part as a family, trying to help out any way we can. That's kind of how me and you met today. But we've been on a couple of delegations to DC. We met with a lot of senators, and Senator Van Hollen and Merkley led a congressional letter addressed to the administration, specifically naming Ambassador Huckabee and Secretary Rubio. And hats off to all the congressmen and the senators and congresswomen who stood up and are sincerely trying to help. And after we finish the situation, we have something to say to the other ones who did it, starting right here in Florida, the ones closest to us who are refusing to help.
Let's play a video that you sent us of Muhammad. Here he is. Okay, so tell us what's happening here,
So
and then we'll watch it.
Muhammad is the one with the striped shirt, the Adidas striped shirt.
Yeah.
He's carrying his little first cousin. That's Sayfollah's little brother, the one that was killed from Tampa. So this is the people that they are telling you don't matter. These are the people who are telling you they're not American enough. This is the one that they want to label as a stone thrower with the intent to harm. This is a petite 15-year-old. As you can see, Muhammad does not look like your
Yeah.
average 15-year-old. And this is the time where kids have that growth spurt,
Right.
between age 16 and 18. Instead, he's malnutritioned, he's starved, skin infection, God knows mentally how he's doing.
Right.
And who knows what he looks like because they're not letting us see him.
Right. So here, let's just take a look at this video. And how old was he when that video was taken?
I think he was probably around 13.
It's just like heart. I mean, it's
So
so heartbreaking.
about a year and a half before he was taken. Yeah.
Right. So here's another photo. I'm just going to show of Muhammad, so people just have a face. So this is he's now 16. He's in jail. He's lost a third of his body weight. Has scabies.
That's a very recent picture before he was taken.
And here he is with another younger relative. So who's this?
That's his niece. So
So cute.
Muhammad's sister had a baby, and he was able to meet her.
She's adorable.
Thank you.
There's that great God organization, We Are Not Numbers, that Rafat Al-Arir started. Ahmed Al-Nawouk is involved with it. And that's such an important thing to remember. We are not numbers. And these are people, right, with stories. So tell us what Saif wanted to do with his life, what he was doing with his life, and then what Muhammad's passions and interests are.
So Saif recently inquired an ice cream store near USF College in Tampa. It was a failing business. Him and Muhammad's brother and their other cousin, three young men between ages of 19 and 20, decided they wanted to work. So their father said, you know what? Instead of each one looking for a job, let's try and invest in them and do something. They're three young men. They got good values and they're responsible. So they all pitched in and bought the kids this business. They turned the business around. It's one of the most viral ice cream shops in Tampa. They serve like a Amish type of ice cream, a more natural, and they mixed in like the Arabic Dubai menu, Dubai chocolate stuff to it, and influence started flocking to the store. The place went viral. The kids were working 7 days a week. Sayfollah was ready for a break, so each three of the kids said, you know what, you go home, visit your family for a month, and when you get back, it'll be my turn. And when he gets back, and he took the trip. His flight got delayed while he was overseas. He was checking on his father's land. They heard that there was people destroying the trees and putting up makeshift like camps, trying to claim, this is Israeli land now because this happened in the lands of the Palestinian Authority, in an area that his father has a deed to. This is his family's land. I guess while he was there was some type of ambush. The IDF was on one side, the settlers were on the side, and they kind of sandwiched in on the kids. Tear gas, live rounds of, and two kids died that day, Mohammed Shalabi, a Palestinian, and Sayfollah, who were born on the same day. These two kids who were murdered, they were born on the same day 20 years ago, and they died on the same day. And Kamal, Sayfullah's father, was here in Tampa covering for Sayfollah at the shop so he could go on his vacation. The Muhammad's father, Rizk Shalabi, waited for Camel to come from the States. And he said, our children passed away together. They were born together. I wasn't going to bury my son until you buried your son. So now they're buried next to each other. But on the flip side of it, Sayfullah's mother, her sister, which is Muhammad's mom, is hoping that her son comes home safe and healthy and doesn't have to be in the shoes, you know, that her sister's in. It's a sad situation. Muhammad was supposed to be here this summer working at the ice cream shop because he was going to be 16. He wanted to have a summer job for a few months and try to get his driver's permit. Just like any 16-year-old that you could probably imagine.